Alright guys, I know it's been quite some time, but I have been so busy lately with so many things. But anyway, there is a very interesting rant request, and it actually came from the comment section of my Facebook. And the question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of interchurch friendships and fellowships, especially among the youth? Now, I don't know if you know this, but I'll just say it anyway. For me personally, I don't really believe in youth ministries. I don't believe that the Bible calls us Christians or calls churches to do separate ministries for the youth. As if there's a youth ministry, then there's the singles ministry, the married ministry, and all these different age demographics. I believe that the Bible wants all of us as churches or local churches to be in one big community where youth learn from singles, the singles learn from the people who are married, the married people are learning from those who have kids. And so it's not wise to separate these age groups. All right, so if you've got youth in the youth ministry separated, not only are they alienated now, but if they hang out with other churches' youth ministries or youth groups, then they're all separated. And so you're creating what you call a separated age demographic that doesn't learn from those who are more mature or those who have come before them. And there's a verse that says it's like the blind leading the blind. It's like the ignorant leading the ignorant. And a lot of times the problem is youth people don't think of concerns from the singles or from young adults. They're not thinking of their careers. They're not thinking of any of these things. The youth have the same concerns. Who is whose crush? Who is dating who? Who likes who? It's all the same stuff going around over and over again. Many of them are not thinking of doctrine. They're not thinking of spiritual growth. They're not thinking of more mature themes and issues and topics. And because of that, they miss out on so much sanctification and potential growth. But if they hang out with higher age demographics like the young adults or the married people, then they really get to see what it's like, what Christianity and faith looks like being lived out in different seasons of life. Now, that being said, what's the advantage or disadvantage of hanging out with other churches? I would honestly say this. If your local church is a healthy, vibrant, dynamic church where all the different age groups are hanging out together and you're not separating them according to ministry, then I don't see any need whatsoever for different churches to intentionally, bring their youth groups together. There's no point, there's no reason. What I see happening are several things. First, they might end up comparing. That's just natural, Oh, our youth does this. Oh, our ministry does this. And then pastors and elders, especially if they're paid pastors and elders, are going to have issues with sheep stealing, people going from one church to another. And it's just confusing. So there's comparison, which breeds envy and pride. And then there's the swapping of church members and all of that. And then there's going to be youth people trying to date, court, pursue girls and guys in different churches. And that just adds to more confusion and more, issues. Now, of course, if the pastors and elders of these churches know each other and they have good friendship and relationships, then it's probably going to be less confusing, but I still believe there will be chaos, confusion, and issues involved. I just cannot think of benefits to the interchurch youth gathering thing. I don't see benefits to it. If you're thinking of flock related issues, like what could a high schooler or a college person gain from fellowshipping with Christians from different churches if he or she's already getting all the spiritual nourishment that he or she needs from their own church? There's no gain. If you say the gain is to develop relationships that might become romance, here's the problem. The question of the rant request is youth. That means They're not supposed to be thinking of romance. They're not supposed to even entertain the thought of being in relationships yet. They're supposed to focus on their studies, being a good student, graduating, and then focusing on what career they should have next. The relationship stuff should be considered once they are gainfully employed for at least 1 year. That's always my advice. The only time you consider relationships is when you are gainfully employed for at least 1 year. Because and the person you should be considering, the person of the opposite sex, should also have been gainfully employed for at least 1 year. Because then you get to test yourself in in an environment of work and industry. That's actually my advice. So if you're a youth and you're thinking of all these different things, I don't see any benefit to it. I don't see any benefit to hanging out with so many different youths from different churches. I don't see the point. I don't see the benefit. It's just more of a fun thing. That means you're probably not getting enough fun from your local church, and that would make me question either the local church or the individual's priority. Because if you're not having enough fun in your local church, then it might mean your local church is boring. And that could be a bad thing. Depends if you're doctrinally sound, but you're just not having enough fellowship. Or maybe your local church has enough fellowship, but you as the person, the individual, have issues. You've got issues about your social life. There must be a reason why you want to have all these friends, and there might be issues to that as well, like insecurities, or maybe you just want as many friends as possible for your self-esteem and all of that. And I'm gonna make another video about that, about self-esteem and Christian girls in particular. But really, I don't see any benefits for youth from Church A and youth from Church B to keep hanging out, even on social media, online, the internet world and all of that. There's just no benefit to it, because if you're youth, you're supposed to be studying. You're not supposed to be, church hopping, even online, to look for potential dating dudes or gals. That's not supposed to be your priority. As a Christian guy or girl, you're supposed to be studying. And if you're gonna look for someone, a potential partner in life, that should be when you have graduated, you're gainfully employed for a year, and they are too, and you get to see how they are, how they respond to the pressures of work life, because that's very different from the pressures of student life. And so, yeah, I don't see benefits. All I see are potential issues, potential challenges, and potential problems. The only benefit I could possibly see is if your church or the church of the particular youth is an unhealthy church. That's the only time I would say there is a benefit. If the church is unhealthy and the individual, the youth person involved or in question, is considering transferring to a different church, that's the only time I would say there's a benefit. But if the churches are healthy and they're vibrant and they're doing evangelism, making disciples, doing what they can, if they are healthy, then I don't see any benefits at all. So I hope this answered the question for the rant request. And of course, it would be a different answer if you're talking about the leadership, the elders, the pastors. But the question was specifically about youth. All right, the youth people. So that's it. I hope this helped. God bless you.